Once upon a time, in a small, peaceful village, there lived an old lady who was known for her kindness, wisdom, and an unwavering happiness that seemed to radiate from her soul. The villagers adored her, often seeking her counsel, sharing their burdens, and asking for advice. She had a way of making everyone feel seen and heard, and no matter the situation, she always had a warm smile for them. One bright morning, a young man, struggling with his own worries, came to her. With a puzzled expression, he asked, "Why are you always so happy, no matter what happens? You never seem sad. Don't you ever feel the weight of life's hardships? When things go wrong, how do you stay so positive?" The old lady's eyes twinkled as she gently smiled at him. Her voice was calm, yet full of warmth, as she replied, "My dear child, life is like the changing seasons. Some days are filled with sunshine, while others bring rain. But the secret is this: true happiness comes from within, not from what happens around us." The young man, still confused, furrowed his brow and asked, "What do you mean? How can anyone stay happy when bad things happen?" The old lady, looking far away, as if lost in a memory, began to share her story. "When I was young, I had a family, a loving husband and children. We weren't wealthy, but our hearts were full. One day, my husband fell terribly ill. We didn't have enough money for the medicine he needed, and despite our best efforts, he passed away. That day, that was the hardest day of my life. I cried so much, I thought my heart would break. I didn't know how I could keep going." Her voice quivered slightly as she continued, "For days, I couldn't imagine ever finding joy again. But then something inside me shifted. I realized that staying in sadness would never bring him back. My children needed me. I needed to be strong for them. I began to see that, even in my grief, I had to choose happiness. Life has its storms, but I decided I wouldn't let them steal my peace." The young man, his face softening with understanding, asked, "But how did you do that? How did you find happiness after so much pain?" The old lady's smile deepened, and her voice was gentle but resolute. "Every morning when I wake up, I make a promise to myself. Today is a new day, and I will find something to be grateful for. Sometimes it's the small things, like the warmth of the sun, or the way a flower blooms, or even the laughter of a friend. No matter how hard life is, there is always something to cherish, even if it's just for a moment." The young man's eyes widened, and he asked with concern, "But what if something really terrible happens? How can you still be happy then?" The old lady took a deep breath, her voice steady but filled with compassion as she answered, "It's never easy, my dear, but I remind myself that nothing lasts forever, not even the bad times. When I face a challenge, I say to myself, this too shall pass. I focus on the good things I still have, my health, my loved ones, even the simple gift of life itself. Happiness is a choice. You can choose to dwell on the negatives, or you can look for the positives. It's not always simple, but it's always possible." The young man stood there, moved by her words. "Thank you," he whispered, touched deeply by her wisdom. He left her house with a new sense of purpose, deciding to apply her advice and seek out the good in every situation. Over time, he began to notice a shift in himself. Even on difficult days, he found moments of happiness, small but meaningful. Slowly, the change spread through the village. People began to understand that happiness isn't something you wait for. It's something you create from within. They, too, learned to find joy in the smallest of things, just like the old lady. And so, the village transformed. It became a place where people weren't defined by what happened to them, but by how they chose to see the world. And the old lady's lessons, passed down through generations, became the heartbeat of the village, a reminder that, no matter what, happiness is a choice.